The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and broken dreams, and Isaac Romano stood in the middle of it, staring at the neurologist who had just delivered the news that would shatter someone's world. Not his world, though. This was business. Isaac owned a pharmaceutical empire worth $3 billion, and he was here investigating potential partnerships with St. Catherine's Medical Center, not to get emotionally involved with patients. Yet something about the way Dr. Martinez's voice dropped when discussing the young woman in room 304 made him pause. "She's 26, Dr. Martinez said quietly, glancing at the chart. "Glioblastoma, stage 4. We've given her 6 months, maybe 8 if she's lucky. The tumor is inoperable. Her name is Julia Chen, and she's one of the bravest people I've ever met." Isaac didn't know why he asked. "Does she have family?" "Parents passed in a car accident 3 years ago. No siblings. A few friends, but most people don't know how to handle this kind of diagnosis. They disappear." The doctor's expression was grim. "She works at the Botanical Gardens downtown. Worked, I should say. She had to take leave." Isaac should have walked away. Should have finished his hospital tour, signed the partnership papers, and returned to his penthouse overlooking the city. Instead, he found himself standing outside room 304 20 minutes later, holding a ridiculous cup of cafeteria coffee he didn't even want. The door was slightly open. He could see her through the gap, sitting up in bed with a sketchbook balanced on her knees, pencil moving rapidly across the page. Dark hair pulled into a messy bun, delicate features concentrated in focus. She didn't look like someone with a death sentence hanging over her head. She looked alive, vibrantly so, and something about that contradiction pulled at Isaac's chest in a way he didn't understand. He knocked softly. She looked up, confusion crossing her face. "Can I help you?" "I'm sorry to intrude," Isaac said, suddenly aware of how intrusive this actually was. "I was touring the hospital and heard about your case. I own Romano Pharmaceuticals. I wanted to see if there was anything we could do." Julia's expression shifted from confusion to something harder, more guarded. "You mean you want to see if I'm a good candidate for an experimental drug trial?" "Thanks, but I've had enough doctors poking at me." "No, I meant what I said." Isaac stepped into the room and he didn't know what possessed him, to be honest. "I heard your story and I wanted to help. No trials, no experiments, just help." "Why?" The question was direct, her brown eyes searching his face for deception. "I don't know," Isaac admitted. "Maybe because I can." Julia studied him for a long moment, then set down her sketchbook. "You're either very kind or very naive. Rich people don't just help for no reason." "Maybe I'm tired of having reasons for everything." Isaac surprised himself with the words. His entire life was calculated, measured, strategic. He had built his fortune on careful planning and ruthless business decisions. This impulse was entirely out of character. "Well, Mr. Romano of Romano Pharmaceuticals, I appreciate the sentiment, but what I need can't be bought." Julia's voice was steady, but he caught the slight tremor underneath. "I need time, and that's the one thing money can't purchase." The words hit him harder than they should have. "What if we could make the time you have better? Better how?" There was curiosity now breaking through the defensiveness. "What do you want to do? If you could do anything right now, what would it be?" Julia laughed, a surprisingly bright sound. "That's a dangerous question to ask someone with 6 months to live." "I'm serious." She picked up her sketchbook, holding it out so he could see the drawing. It was a landscape, mountains rising behind a field of wildflowers, rendered in careful detail. "I've always wanted to see the alpine meadows in Switzerland. Spring blooms. My mother used to tell me stories about visiting there as a child, but that was before the medical bills piled up, before I had to choose between treatment and dreams." Isaac pulled out his phone. "When can you travel?" "What are you doing?" Julia sat up straighter, alarm in her voice. "I'm clearing my schedule. We're going to Switzerland." He met her eyes, and for the first time in years, Isaac felt certain about something that had nothing to do with profit margins or market share. "I'm going to take you to see those meadows." "You're insane. You don't even know me." "Then we'll get to know each other on the plane." Isaac was already texting his assistant, his mind racing through logistics. "I have a private jet. We can have medical staff on board. You'll be safe." "Why would you do this?" Julia's voice cracked, and he saw tears gathering in her eyes. "I'm a stranger. I'm dying. This doesn't make sense." Isaac sat down in the chair beside her bed, setting his phone aside. "Nothing about today has made sense. I came here to tour a facility and look at acquisition opportunities. Instead, I'm standing in your room offering to fly you to Switzerland. But sometimes the things that don't make sense are the ones worth doing. I can't afford it. I'm not asking you to pay. Consider it a gift from someone who has more money than he knows what to do with." Julia wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. "This is crazy, probably." Isaac found himself grinning. "Is that a yes, doctor?" Martinez took significant convincing, but 3 days later, Isaac's private jet was crossing the Atlantic with Julia settled in a leather seat, medical equipment discreetly positioned nearby, and a nurse Isaac had hired specifically for the journey monitoring her vitals. Isaac sat across from her, ostensibly working on his laptop, but mostly watching the way her face lit up as she looked out the window at the clouds below. "I've never been on a plane before," she admitted. "Never left the state, actually. Never." Isaac couldn't imagine it. He traveled constantly, had offices in 12 countries, viewed the world as his territory to conquer. "My parents couldn't afford it, and then after they died, I was working 3 jobs to pay off their debts. Then I got sick, and suddenly all my money went to doctors." Julia's tone was matter-of-fact, no self-pity, just stating reality. "Life doesn't always go according to plan." "No," Isaac agreed. "It doesn't. What about you? How does someone end up owning a pharmaceutical company at?" She tilted her head, assessing him. 32. 33, Isaac corrected. "And I inherited it. My father built Romano Pharmaceuticals from the ground up, then died of a heart attack when I was 25. I had just finished my MBA. Suddenly, I was running a multi-billion-dollar company and trying not to destroy everything he had built." "Did you want it? The company?" No one had ever asked him that before. "I don't know. I never had the chance to want anything else. My father groomed me from childhood to take over. Private schools, business degree, internships at the company every summer. It was always assumed." "That sounds lonely," Julia said softly. Isaac looked up from his laptop, meeting her eyes. It is." "Well, you're not lonely right now. You're on an adventure with a dying girl who can't believe any of this is real." She grinned at him, and Isaac felt something shift in his chest. "Thank you, Isaac. Really. This is the kindest thing anyone has ever done for me. We haven't even gotten there yet. Save your thanks for when you see the meadows." They landed in Zurich the next morning, and Isaac had arranged for a car to take them south into the mountains. Julia pressed her face against the window like a child, taking in everything: the pristine villages, the snow-capped peaks, the impossible green of the valleys. Isaac found himself watching her instead of the scenery, captivated by her wonder. The hotel was a small luxury resort nestled in the mountains, with balconies overlooking meadows that were just beginning their spring bloom. Isaac had booked the entire top floor to ensure privacy and immediate access to the medical suite he had arranged. Julia stood on the balcony of her room, hands gripping the railing, staring at the landscape spread before her. "It's exactly like my mother described," she whispered. "Even more beautiful." Isaac stood beside her, and he reached out without thinking, covering her hand with his. She didn't pull away. Over the next week, they explored the mountains together. Isaac hired a guide who knew the best trails, ones Julia could manage without exhausting herself. They walked through meadows carpeted with wildflowers, crocuses and gentians and alpine roses, creating a tapestry of color. Julia sketched constantly, filling page after page of her notebook with quick studies and detailed drawings. One afternoon, they stopped beside a mountain stream, the water crystal clear and cold from snowmelt. Julia sat on a smooth rock, dangling her fingers in the current, and Isaac stretched out on the grass beside her, feeling more relaxed than he had in years. "Can I ask you something personal?" Julia's voice was quiet, of course. Why don't you have someone, a girlfriend, a wife? You're successful, handsome, clearly generous. You can't tell me women aren't interested. Isaac was silent for a moment, watching clouds drift across the peaks. I've dated, nothing serious. My father used to say that relationships were liabilities in business. He married my mother because it was a strategic alliance between families. They were civil to each other but never in love. I always told myself I wouldn't settle for that, but then I never made time for anything else. That's sad, Julia said simply. Life is more than business. I'm beginning to understand that. Isaac sat up, looking at her directly. You're changing my perspective on a lot of things. Good, someone needs to, she smiled, but there was sadness behind it. I don't want to be morbid, but I think about what I'm leaving behind. I don't have children, don't have any great accomplishments. I worked at a botanical garden and drew pictures. When I'm gone, what will remain? You'll remain. Isaac's voice was fierce. In the memories of everyone who knew you, in these drawings you're creating, in me. I'll remember this. Julia looked at him, really looked at him, and Isaac saw the exact moment something changed between them. The air felt charged, heavy with possibility and the terrible awareness of time slipping away. Isaac, I need you to understand something. Her words were careful, measured. I'm dying. In a few months I'll be gone. You can't let yourself care about me too much. It will only hurt worse. Too late, Isaac said, and he meant it. I'm already in too deep. That's not fair to you. I don't care about fair, I care about you. Julia's eyes filled with tears. I care about you too, that's the problem. I didn't expect this. I thought I was coming here for a beautiful goodbye to the world, and instead I'm falling for someone I can never have a future with. Isaac moved to sit beside her on the rock, close enough that their shoulders touched. Then let's not think about the future. Let's just have right now. These moments, they're real and they matter regardless of what comes after. You're asking me to let you love someone who's going to die. Her voice broke. I'm asking you to let me love you for whatever time we have. Isaac turned to face her fully, taking both her hands in his. I know this is crazy, I know it's going to hurt. But Julia, I haven't felt alive in years, not until I met you. You make me want to be better, to see the world differently. Please don't ask me to walk away now. Julia was crying openly now, tears streaming down her face. You're going to break my heart. You're going to break mine too. Isaac reached up, gently wiping the tears from her cheeks. Let's break each other's hearts together. She laughed through her tears, and then she was kissing him, fierce and desperate and sweet all at once. Isaac wrapped his arms around her, holding her close, and for a perfect moment the world narrowed to just the two of them beside a mountain stream in Switzerland. They stayed in the mountains for another 2 weeks. Isaac had originally planned for a week-long trip, but he kept extending their stay, unable to bear the thought of leaving this bubble they had created. They spent days hiking gentle trails, visiting small villages, eating fondue in cozy restaurants while rain pattered against the windows. Nights were spent on the balcony, wrapped in blankets, Julia pointing out constellations while Isaac held her and tried not to think about 6 months feeling like 6 seconds. The nurse Isaac had hired discreetly monitored Julia's condition. She was holding steady, the mountain air actually seeming to agree with her. But they both knew it was temporary, a reprieve, not a cure. Tell me about the botanical gardens, Isaac said one evening. They were in his suite, Julia curled against his chest on the sofa, a fire crackling in the fireplace. It was my favorite place in the world, Julia said softly. I started volunteering there in high school and they hired me after college. I worked in the native plants section, helping maintain the prairie restoration and woodland gardens. There's something magical about watching things grow, about understanding the relationships between plants and pollinators and soil. Everything connected, everything depending on everything else. You miss it? Every day, I miss working with my hands in the dirt, miss the smell of the greenhouses, miss my colleagues. They sent flowers to the hospital, but then I didn't hear from most of them again. I understand. Death makes people uncomfortable. Isaac tightened his arms around her. When we get back, I want to do something for you. Let me fund a new section at the gardens, something permanent with your name on it." Julia pushed back to look at him. "Isaac, no, that's too much. It's not nearly enough. You should have a legacy, Julia. Something beautiful that will outlive both of us." "You're impossible," she said, but she was smiling. "Okay, but only if it's an alpine garden, something that reminds people of this place of what we have here. Deal." Isaac kissed her forehead, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, trying to memorize every detail. They returned to the States 3 weeks after they had left, and reality crashed back in with brutal force. Julia had an appointment with her oncologist, and the news was not good. The tumor had grown. Her time estimate was revised downward, 4 months now, maybe less. Isaac sat in the consultation room with her, holding her hand while the doctor discussed options. There were no good ones, only degrees of terrible. More aggressive treatment might buy a few weeks but would destroy her quality of life. Hospice care would keep her comfortable but meant accepting defeat. "I don't want to spend my last months in a hospital," Julia said firmly. "I want to live whatever time I have left." Dr. Martinez nodded. "We can arrange home hospice care. You'll need someone with you as things progress." "She'll stay with me," Isaac said. It wasn't a question. Julia turned to him. "Isaac, I can't ask that of you." "You're not asking, I'm telling you. My penthouse has 5 bedrooms. We'll convert one into a proper medical suite. I'll hire nurses, get whatever equipment you need. You're not going through this alone." The doctor looked between them, seeing something that made him smile sadly. "You two make a beautiful couple. I'm glad you found each other, even under these circumstances." Julia moved into Isaac's penthouse the following week. He had indeed converted a bedroom, but she rarely used it, preferring to sleep in his arms in the master suite. Isaac rearranged his work schedule, delegating more to his executives, working from home whenever possible. He wanted every moment with her he could steal from the relentless march of time. They lived. That was what Isaac would remember most later. Despite everything, they lived. Julia taught him to see beauty in small things. The way light fell through windows in the afternoon. The first bloom of the houseplants she insisted on filling his sterile penthouse with. The taste of perfectly ripe strawberries from the farmer's market. Isaac took her on day trips when she felt strong enough, to art museums and botanical gardens and a butterfly conservatory where she stood in wonder as monarchs landed on her shoulders. He commissioned a landscape architect to design the alpine garden at her workplace, and they spent hours reviewing plans, Julia insisting on specific plants, creating a design that would bloom in waves from early spring through fall. Isaac donated $2 million to fund it, plus an endowment for maintenance. The Julia Chen Memorial Alpine Garden would break ground in the spring. "It's strange," Julia said one night. They were in bed, her back against his chest, his arm around her waist. "I've been alive for 26 years, but I feel like I only started really living these past few months. Because of you." "I feel the same way," Isaac admitted. "You've taught me what matters, not profit margins or market share, just moments, just love." "I love you," Julia whispered. "I know we haven't said it yet, but I do. I love you so much it terrifies me." "I love you too." Isaac pressed a kiss to her shoulder. "From that first day in the hospital, I think I've loved you." Julia turned in his arms, kissing him deeply. "Make love to me, please. I need to feel alive." They came together with tenderness and passion, gentle because her body was becoming fragile, fierce because time was running out. Afterwards, Julia cried and Isaac held her, his own tears soaking into her hair. The next months were a study in contradictions. There were good days when Julia seemed almost healthy, laughing and joking and making plans they both knew might never happen. There were bad days when she couldn't get out of bed, when pain medication made her fuzzy and distant, when Isaac could only sit beside her and hold her hand and feel helpless rage at a universe that would take her away. 3 months after they returned from Switzerland, Julia's condition deteriorated rapidly. She was weak now, sleeping most of the day, her vibrant energy flickering like a candle in wind. Isaac canceled everything, devoted himself entirely to her care. He read to her, played her favorite music, carried her to the balcony so she could feel the sun. One autumn afternoon, when the leaves were turning gold outside his windows, Julia woke from a nap with unusual clarity in her eyes. "Isaac, I need you to promise me something. Anything." He was sitting beside the bed as he had been for hours. "After I'm gone, I need you to keep living, really living, not just existing like you were before. Find someone to love, have a family, be happy. Julia, please. I need to know that something good comes from this, that I gave you something that lasts. Promise me you won't lock yourself away." Isaac couldn't speak for a moment, emotion choking his throat. "I promise. But you've already given me everything. You've taught me how to feel again, how to love. Whatever happens next, I'll always be grateful for you." "Good," Julia smiled, reaching up to touch his face. "You're going to be okay. You're so much stronger than you think." "I don't feel strong right now." You're the strongest man I know." Her eyes drifted closed. "I'm tired, Isaac." "So tired." "Then rest, sweetheart. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." Julia Chen died 3 days later on a quiet morning when rain tapped against the windows. She passed peacefully in her sleep, cradled in Isaac's arms. He held her for a long time afterward, feeling the warmth gradually leave her body, unable to accept that she was truly gone. The funeral was small but beautiful. Isaac arranged for it to be held at the Botanical Gardens, beside the plot where the Alpine Garden would be built. Julia's few remaining friends attended, along with colleagues from the gardens, Dr. Martinez and the medical staff who had cared for her, and several of Isaac's employees who had gotten to know her during the past months. Isaac delivered a eulogy that had people crying, talking about Julia's courage, her kindness, her ability to find beauty in darkness. In the weeks after, Isaac moved through life like a ghost. The penthouse felt cavernous and empty without Julia's presence. He threw himself into work, but nothing seemed to matter anymore. His executives worried. His assistant gently suggested therapy, and Isaac ignored them all, nursing his grief in private. 2 months after Julia's death, the construction crew broke ground on the Alpine Garden. Isaac attended the ceremony, standing in the cold January wind, watching excavators move earth. The landscape architect walked him through the plans again, showing where each section would go, explaining the vision Julia had created. "She had a real gift," the architect said. "Not just for design, but for understanding what would bring people joy. This garden is going to be special." Isaac nodded, not trusting his voice. He visited the construction site weekly, watching the garden take shape. Crews built raised stone beds, installed an irrigation system, prepared soil according to Julia's precise specifications. As winter faded into spring, the first plants went in. Alpine flowers Julia had chosen, many of them varieties found in the Swiss meadows they had visited together. On what would have been Julia's 27th birthday, Isaac stood in the completed garden for the first time. It was stunning. Stone paths wound between beds overflowing with blooms, crocuses and primroses, and tiny alpine phlox creating carpets of color. A small waterfall cascaded over rocks, reminiscent of the mountain stream where they had first kissed. In the center stood a bronze plaque that read, "The Julia Chen Memorial Alpine Garden, in memory of a life lived with beauty, courage, and love." Isaac sat on a bench Julia had specified in her design, surrounded by the flowers she had loved, and for the first time since her death, he didn't feel crushing sadness. He felt peace. Julia was here in every carefully chosen plant, every thoughtful detail. She had created something that would bring joy to people for generations. "I miss you," he said aloud, not caring if anyone heard. "Every single day I miss you, but you were right. Love doesn't end when someone dies. It transforms into something else, into this garden. Into the way I see the world now, into the fact that I'm still here, still trying because I promised you I would." A butterfly landed on the flowers beside him, wings iridescent in the sunlight. Isaac watched it for a moment, then smiled. Over the following year, Isaac slowly returned to himself. Not the person he had been before Julia, that calculating businessman who saw the world as a series of transactions. He was someone new, shaped by love and loss, more compassionate and more aware of what truly mattered. He remained involved with the botanical gardens, joining their board and increasing his philanthropic support. He funded scholarships for horticulture students in Julia's name. He took more time off work, traveled for pleasure instead of just business, visited the Swiss mountains again, and stood in the meadows where he had fallen in love. And then, on a spring morning 2 years after Julia's death, Isaac was at the Alpine Garden checking on some new plantings when a woman approached him. She was in her late 20s with kind eyes and a gardener's hands, dirt under her nails. "You're Isaac Romano, aren't you?" "I'm Jennifer Caldwell. I'm the new curator for the Alpine Garden." Isaac shook her hand. "Nice to meet you. How are you finding the space? It's incredible." Julia's design was brilliant. I've been reading through her notes, and her understanding of alpine ecology was remarkable. Jennifer gestured to the beds around them. She must have been an amazing person. She was. Isaac felt the familiar ache but also warmth. "She changed my life. I'm sorry for your loss, but I hope it helps to know that her work here touches people every day." "Yesterday I watched a little girl discover her first butterfly right over there by the primroses. The joy on her face, that's Julia's legacy." Isaac smiled. "She would have loved that." Jennifer hesitated, then asked, "Would you want to get coffee sometime?" "I'd love to hear more about Julia's vision for the garden, understand what she hoped to create here." Isaac looked at this woman with her earnest expression and obvious passion for the work Julia had loved, and he remembered his promise. "Keep living, be open to happiness." "I'd like that," he said. "But I should tell you, for me it wouldn't just be about the garden. I'd want to get to know you too." Jennifer's smile was warm. "I'd like that as well. How about Saturday?" They met for coffee, then dinner, then a walk through the botanical gardens at sunset. Jennifer was intelligent and grounded, with a deep love for plants and a quick sense of humor. She knew about Julia from the beginning, and she didn't shy away from that history. "I'm not trying to replace her," Jennifer said one evening, several months into their relationship. "That would be impossible, but I'd like to build something new with you if you're ready." Isaac took her hand. "I am ready. Julia would want this. She made me promise to find happiness again, and I'm learning that honoring her memory doesn't mean staying stuck in grief." Their relationship grew slowly, built on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. Jennifer understood Isaac's need to visit the Alpine Garden regularly, his habit of talking about Julia occasionally, his complicated relationship with loss. Isaac appreciated Jennifer's patience, her own completeness as a person, the way she loved him without needing him to be anyone other than himself. 3 years after Julia's death, Isaac proposed to Jennifer in the Alpine Garden, beside the waterfall where butterflies danced in the mist. She said yes, laughing and crying at the same time. They married in a simple ceremony the following spring, with friends and family gathered in the botanical gardens. As Isaac waited at the altar, he looked up at the sky and thought of Julia. "Thank you," he said silently. "Thank you for teaching me how to love and for making me promise not to give up on it. I'll never forget you." A breeze rustled the flowers around them, carrying the scent of alpine blooms, and Isaac took it as the blessing it was. Jennifer walked down the aisle, beautiful in a simple white dress, and Isaac's heart filled with joy and gratitude and, yes, love. Different from what he had shared with Julia, but no less real, no less profound. They exchanged vows under the open sky, promising to honor each other, to build a life together, to never take for granted the gift of time they had been given. When Isaac kissed his bride, he heard cheering from their guests and felt the sun warm on his face, and he knew with absolute certainty that he had kept his promise. 5 years later, Isaac and Jennifer stood in the Alpine Garden with their 3-year-old daughter, Lily, watching her toddle between the flower beds with wonder in her eyes. Their second child, a son they named Julian, was asleep in Jennifer's arms. Isaac felt a contentment so deep it almost hurt, this simple moment of family and sunshine and flowers. "Daddy, look, butterfly!" Lily pointed excitedly at a monarch landing on an alpine rose. "Beautiful, sweetheart," Isaac said, crouching down beside her. "Do you know who planted these flowers?" "Julia," Lily said solemnly. She had heard the story many times. She was special. She was very special, and she helped Daddy learn how to love, which means she helped bring you and Julian into the world. Lily considered this with a child's seriousness, then announced, "I like Julia." Isaac felt tears prick his eyes. "I like her too, baby, I like her too." Jennifer came to stand beside them, shifting Julian to one hip and wrapping her free arm around Isaac's waist. "You okay?" "More than okay." Isaac kissed her temple. "I was just thinking about how lucky I am. Julia taught me that life is precious, that time is the only currency that really matters. Because of her, I don't waste moments. I'm here fully present with the people I love." "She gave you a great gift," Jennifer said softly. "She did. She gave me everything, really. And then she let me go so I could have this." Isaac gestured to encompass his family, the garden, the life he had built. "I never expected that 6 months with a dying woman would change everything, but it did. Limited time became infinite impact." Lily tugged on his hand. "Daddy, can we get ice cream?" Isaac laughed, scooping his daughter up and spinning her around, her delighted giggles echoing through the garden. "Absolutely. Come on, let's go celebrate being alive." As they walked toward the garden exit, Isaac paused at the bronze plaque, as he always did. He touched it gently, a ritual, a remembrance, a thank you. Julia had been right. Love didn't end with death. It transformed, became something that lived in memory and legacy in the choices made because of it. Isaac had loved her with everything he had for the short time they were together. Now he loved Jennifer and his children with that same wholehearted devotion, made possible because Julia had cracked open his heart and taught him how. The butterfly followed them for a few feet, dancing on the breeze, before flying back toward the alpine roses. Isaac watched it go, smiled, and turned toward the future. He was ready for whatever came next, armed with the knowledge that every moment was precious, every day a gift, every love a miracle worth cherishing. Limited time had meant everything. And in the end, it had given him everything too.